It's a new year. 2023 is here. Putting on my list of minis. Newsies and let's cheers. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the past. Time to get on the Not Your Average Joel podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So today, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have made it to episode 70. I can't believe we've made it 70 episodes. I've come a long way. It's definitely been not even a year ago where I was even thinking about doing this podcast, and here I am 70 episodes later, because the idea of this podcast didn't even originate in my head till probably in the middle of May, which right now we're in getting towards mid-April, and just just thinking about how far I feel like I've come with this, how more comfortable I've been with this, and I've definitely just been enjoying to get to get to reconnect with people that I haven't seen in a while, whether it's people I went to school with, or whether it's people that I've traveled with, to Greece or Ireland, or people just that I've met online, friendships that I've made online. There's just so many awesome people that I've gotten to reconnect with. And I've had past guests and new guests, which speaking of a past guest, we do have a past guest back here on the channel. So this is Madison. This is her third time here. This is the last time she was here was probably maybe in the later of last year. So it's definitely good having her back. So welcome back, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I love that you're doing this.
Yes, and I definitely appreciate your support and all of the others that always come back and or enjoy having these conversations about just different topics, whether it's fun topics or even these topics that can be a little bit more serious. I definitely enjoy these, so I'm glad that I have people that love to come back and just get to share some input about different things for sure. So today's topic is actually going to be a pretty fun and interesting topic. I'm going to say at least. So so the topic is actually going to be about life as an only child versus life of a child with many siblings. So the reason why I think should be obvious of why I named it that is because Madison is an only child, and then I have many siblings. So we're going to talk about our experiences with being, with the upbringing that we had, and our household, and just seeing some of the similarities or even major differences as well in our household. So I do have a few questions I'm going to be asking Madison, and I'll definitely put in my input where I can. There's some questions that I feel like I can't really fully answer because I can't truly relate to it, but I'm going to try my best. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and actually get into this first question. So first question is, um, okay, so as of right now, you do actually have a only child yourself, Kendall, your daughter. So I guess my question is, do you hope to give Kendall that opportunity of being a big sister that you didn't get to have when you were a kid? Or do you feel like as of right now, you're okay and satisfied with just having one child?
So we do want another one. Eventually we haven't really nailed down when yet, but we do want another child at some point. Um, Honestly, it's just if the Lord wills it, it'll happen. But if it doesn't happen for us to have another one, I will find joy in that and I will be satisfied in that because that is what the Lord willed for our lives. So, it'll be okay, but we would like to have another one if possible.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was just curious because of how you grew up as an only child. I was just wondering with your experience, if you want your daughter to kind of go through the same exact experience, that you had as being of an only child. Not that you had that choice, because it was up to your parents, but but just curious on that. And I would say if I was in your position and I had just one child, I would probably want to have at least one more if the Lord, if it's the Lord's will to have another child, because I feel like, that would be is kind of like having a friend, like like as a built-in friend, I guess, into the family. Basically, not only are they your family, but yeah, you can build a strong friendship with them too. So I think I would love to have more than one child. But like you said, if I only had one child, I would be okay with it. I would find joy in it and find the positives out of that for sure. So I guess another question that comes to mind is so since you are an only child and like we already mentioned, you just have one child right now, do you kind of feel like you're having like deja vu moments when you see like a similar upbringing that maybe your daughter is going through, like just being an only child with just parents, and then like you did that same thing with your parents? Almost like, do you see like a younger version of yourself within Kendall as she's like, the only child as of right now?
So things I've noticed within her is that she is very independent, and she's two. And so I don't know if part of that comes from like because I was very independent at that age as well. And so like I don't know if that comes from genetically, like just being a part of me, her being that independent, or if that is like an only child thing where like, you know, we don't have a sibling to get it done, so we got to get it done. So I don't know if that, is genetically or if that's more like an only child thing. But something else I've noticed within her is that she gets jealous. Um, when she's in the nursery at Sunday school at church, um, if I'm working in her class, I'm having to watch the other kids as well, not just her. And so if I have a kid come up to me with a problem or anything else, if I'm like trying to comfort that kid, she'll come over to me, mommy, 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 hold me. And so I see that jealousy coming into, which I think all, and like I said, she's two, so I think all toddlers go through that. Since she's two and I don't remember much of my life from that age, it's kind of hard to say whether I see like a similar upbringing from my life because I don't remember much of that age. But those are two things that I've noticed is the jealousy from the other kids that I have to pay attention to sometimes, or the independent personality that she has.
Yeah, I could definitely like as far as the jealousy goes, I've seen that way too many times like within my own family, since I have such a big family, and then like even like some of my siblings have kids now, and I see that even in my nephews and nieces, like when a new baby comes in, then like the mom is given the attention to the youngest baby, and then the one that's like it could be like the middle child is like always wanted that attention too. So I could definitely relate, as far as seeing like the jealousy side of things when it comes to when it comes to a baby or a toddler, wanting attention. So I've seen that a little too much. And then as far as like the independence, that definitely, makes a lot of sense. And that's one thing that I feel like is kind of different when it comes to like my upbringing, because I felt like I kind of feel like maybe my independence didn't really come in until like I graduated. I feel like it took me longer to like have that more willingness to be independent. Like I feel like I was so like, maybe I didn't care to like make friends at school because I felt like I already had friends at home. So it was like my social skills were not the best, back in the school days, and I just felt like maybe I just felt more of a homebody or whatever you call it nowadays, where you just kind of come out of your shell once you get back home. And but I think that as far as the independence, it is something that I didn't really have as much, for me. And I'm not sure for all of my siblings, but I could say for me at least, it was something that I guess just came on later in life once I started like having a job. And then I was thinking, oh, okay, I might, I like this, having like a job, making money, and have my own car. And then like going to college, it's like, okay, like just kind of seeing more of the world, and just thinking like, okay, this is this is something that I can get used to, even though sometimes it can be scary too, like being independent for me. Like right now, I still live like with my parents. So like I know one day, like if the Lord wills and I get married and have children, sometimes the thought of that can be a little like scary, just because of the fear of the unknown. Just wondering, like, okay, you're the man of the household now. You're the one that's got to take control of things, and like you're the leader. And then it's like how do I lead a family? Like sometimes it's like, that independence can sound a little scary, because like everything falls on you at that point. So I still feel like I have moments where like being dependent on my family, it's still trickling even now to this day. So it is, I think those are definitely two really good points, and two interesting points. So, I think even with this question, I can't personally answer this since I don't have a child, and I can't say, whether my kid, like if I had a bunch of kids, would it be the same experience as mine, which I feel like it probably would be. Like I feel like if I had a lot of kids, and because I grew up with a lot of kids, I may see some similarities where, not all of us are super close. Like, I mean, like none of us have bad blood against each other, but like there are some siblings that like I'm a lot closer to than others. Like especially the ones that are around my age, like I have a really good bond with them. And then even some of my older brothers, like it took me getting like older to where they see me as an adult instead of a kid, to where like they would want to build, I guess, a friendship with me instead of just like, okay, that's my brother. But like, now you can look at me as, okay, well, that's my brother that I can hang out with and like do things with, because now that I'm older, we'll have similarities and we can have more interesting conversations, because I know like as being a kid, you can just talk about just so many, like it's like childish things or just different things. Well, even though I still have some childish talks, like I mean conversations, like I'll still reference SpongeBob every now and then.
Yes.
So I can't do without SpongeBob. I mean, I haven't watched like some of the newer ones, but those old episodes of SpongeBob, oh, I'm here for it.
Yes. My husband Luke, we we cannot watch the old SpongeBob together because I constantly quote it. Before anyone says anything, I'm quoting what they're saying, and it drives him bonkers. Like he cannot stand it. And so intentionally, if we're watching SpongeBob, he'll put the newer episodes on that I don't know. So I can't quote it while we watch it together.
Oh my gosh, I feel like my family, like all of us are just like that, where like we might as well just like, do the play by play, because like we can just basically just speak for y'all, just mute it and we'll just say the words for you, because that's how we are on certain episodes. Like there's some really good ones out there, like the chocolate episode. Oh man,
Yes.
that's like my favorite one. It's like I love quoting that one. There's just
Look, we may have to make a separate episode just for SpongeBob.
For real, I might need to for real add that into my topics, where we need to just talk about SpongeBob. We got to talk about like his favorite quotes, and is mayonnaise an instrument? Like, there's so many like good things I want to talk about. So I might actually consider that. You just gave me an idea.
Because I could call I like the length of time that I could talk about SpongeBob would last for a whole nother episode.
Yeah, yeah, same here. Like, I
Uh,
definitely grew up with SpongeBob, like watching SpongeBob, and it was definitely such a good one, a good show for sure. So, so yeah, I still could talk about that here as an adult. So, and I think even my older siblings that maybe they didn't grow up with SpongeBob, those that were born like in the 80s and like they grew up with, which I still love it, like shows like Saved by the Bell and
Yeah.
shows like that. But of course we had where like all of the prime stuff came in, all the Disney movies and
Mm.
the Nickelodeon shows. And so, but yeah, once I got older, I feel like there was more, I guess, in depth, deeper conversations that I could have with my siblings. So I feel like if I did have, not that I don't see myself having 11 children, but let's just say if I did have 11 children, I would see definitely a lot of similarities, like with just how, everyone, of course, has a different personality. There's some that may be a little bit more of an extrovert, some that are a little bit more of an introvert, and some that would be a little bit more closer than the others. So yeah, I think I would be able to see similarities. I would probably be very surprised if I didn't see any similarity at all, since there's so many siblings, so many different people, and so many different outcomes.
Yeah.
So, I guess my next question, I feel like I can give a little bit more input to, even though my fill in the blank at the end of this question will be a little bit different than yours. So, my next question is, what are some good things that you feel like, when it comes to like being an only child?
So it definitely helped me to develop more of an extroverted, like outgoing personality. Because like when we go on like family vacations, I would realize like if we were at the beach and like at the condo pool, my parents were laying out in the sun, tanning, they wouldn't really get in the pool much. And so I'm like, I want someone to swim with me. And if I'm gonna have someone swim with me, I gotta go make a friend. And so I would go out and I would make a friend. And every single family vacation, we would go every year to Gulf Shores. And I remember every year I had at least one friend that was there for the length of time that we were there that I would have in the pool to swim with and be friends with. And so it definitely developed that in me. Now, unfortunately, middle school and high school kind of squashed that a little bit. Just with the anxieties of trying to fit in when you're that age and feeling like you don't and all those things. So that time period in my life kind of squashed that a little bit, but I definitely feel like I'm back to that again. Being out
Mhm.
of school and being able to, be out in the world. I feel like I've developed that in myself again.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's very interesting that you brought up about being an extrovert when you were younger, like, before the middle school and high school times, because, I guess it kind of goes back to what I mentioned here a few minutes ago, where I felt like I was so dependent on like my siblings that like I felt like I already had friends within my family that like when I went out, it was like, oh, different people, like, oh, like, that kind of gave me that, I guess, nervousness of like even trying to get to know people. And then so I was like, my comfort zone was my family. So it's like, it took me forever to, even until out of high school, it took me forever to, kind of realize that like, okay, like, even though I knew people don't bite, but like, it's like kind of had lost that fear of like, okay, like people, like if people just reject you, then they just do. Like if they don't want to talk to you, then it is what it is. And but you won't know until you try. So like I remember even in middle school and high school, like people would always ask me like, "Oh my gosh, why are you so quiet?" Or even if I like barely spoke, like I remember people were like, "Oh my gosh, he talked. Oh my gosh." And it's like, okay, like I'm trying to put myself out there and like you're like making it even more of a big scene. It's like, all right, he's talking. It's like, okay, well, back to my hole.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it's like I don't like it almost felt like it was like that pressure of like, okay, like now you're making an announcement that like, that I'm talking and it's like, okay, like okay, I'm good. I'm gonna go
Like you're
back.
drawing more attention to it than what it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why for the longest I was just so used to having that comfort of just being with my family. So I think, I think that was very interesting that you brought up about like being an extrovert. And then like even with the middle school and high school pressures of fitting in, I definitely felt that as well. Even though I was more of an introvert on like the opposite end of the spectrum, I still can relate to like wanting to, like if I saw somebody that was popular, everybody would talk to this person, I would be like, oh man, like I wish I was friends with him, or or I was wish I was friends with her, and it's like, nothing ever happened out of that. And in a way, now looking back at it, I'm kind of glad, like maybe now seeing the lives that some of these people live, like, and that my life is a lot differently than theirs. So, like, I guess it's kind of like I'm now don't have, like, I guess that, like, I feel like I would have regretted it if I tried changing myself to be like somebody that's popular and like well known, and like even just with today's culture of like what people expect out of like famous people or like people that are I guess really popular. Maybe there's some things that they would do that I feel like wouldn't be pleasing to the Lord. So I guess maybe now just looking back at it, I'll try to have better like practice as far as like making sure that I don't ever want to have that feeling of like I need to fit in with people. Even though, I mean, there are certain areas where you definitely do want to fit in, like with, with church and stuff like that. But as far as like trying to stay in with like modern day culture and like social media and trying to stay relevant in that way, I've tried doing better with that, which I just realized I'm kind of going off on a tangent in a way, but I feel like it still comes back to like being an only kid and or having many siblings, because it just still kind of points back to the fact that like, I've always just kind of always going back to my family at the end of the day, and that was like just my safe haven, and always was and still is to this day, but I've been a lot more open now.
Yeah. Well, anytime that, going back to what you said about, regretting changing who you are to fit in, like, it comes down to like, are you trying to please others or are you trying to please God? Because anytime that we're trying to please others, we take ourselves out of trying to please God. And so, when we change who we are to fit in with others, that doesn't please God. And so, like, yeah, that would have been, a regret, because you got to stay true to who you are and to, what God has called you to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's super important to point out that like you never want to change yourself for anybody. So that's why, I think, with my family, they knew me for who I was. And, you want other people to see that in you, but then some people may think that the way I believe or the way I act is not according, like I guess as highly looked at according to like the modern day standard. So, just I think that is good to point out that like, it's like it should never be, you should never make it to where you choose to please others and try to make yourself popular, because at the end of the day that's temporary.
Hmm.
So I guess like as far as the fill in the blank part at the end of the question, I guess my question for me it would be, what are some good things about being a child with many siblings? So I guess my answer would be, I think like, I feel like I've mentioned it a million times already, but like kind of already having friends, like already from the get-go was like one big thing. And then like another thing, I feel like there was never a dull moment. There still is never a dull moment. Like even now,
Hmm.
as all of us are growing up, and um, everyone's either there's always something happening. Whether somebody's getting married, somebody's graduating from high school or college, somebody's having a kid, somebody's kids having a kid. Like even even like one of my older brothers, he actually has a granddaughter, so it's like I'm a great uncle already.
Wow.
So it's like it's just it's interesting, like I already have, like I guess that's another good point that I feel like I have is that I feel like I have like the preparations of like being a parent in a way, except for changing a diaper. But besides that, I feel like I've been an uncle since I was like 5 years old because I'm one of the younger ones out of the 11 of us. So like by the time I was 5 years old, like my two older brothers were in their 20s already, and they both had um their they're my two nephews like 2 months apart. So like by the time
Well,
before I was even 6 years old, I already had two nephews. So I think like, being around like my nephews and nieces, even to this day, I feel like it kind of prepares me in a way for like things to expect, like whenever I do become a parent. Like seeing, especially like when they get older and there's more of the um well, I don't want to say like, I mean, I guess, oh, I might as well just be real right here. I feel like once they get like two or three, I feel like they want to like start talking back or like trying to be maybe rebellious in a way, or like want to kind of no, and like
yeah, I mean,
so.
there's nothing wrong with saying that. That's real. Like Kendall's too. And like she's so sweet and she's so loving, but she can also be sassy. And she can be a little rebellious. Like, we tell her to come over here and she understands and knows that we're telling her, hey, come over here because we got to do something, but she'll run off the other way. So, I mean, again, she's one of the most loving, sweetest, funniest little girls, but she is a 2-year-old toddler who can be rebellious.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that is, important to point out that like, yeah, there's always that nice little sweet side of babies and toddlers, but then there's also that side where, they lose that for just a moment and like they want to be a little bit rebellious. They want to do the opposite of what you're being told. So it kind of prepares me sometimes for like, like how would I act if I was the dad of, my nephew or niece that said, no, like to my to their parents. So like, I would wonder like what would I do? What would I say? How would you handle it? Because I feel like there's always a balance of how you should handle, these things. There's sprinkles, by the way, everybody. Yeah, good old kitty. Um but yeah, I think that was like, one big thing for me too. Like so there are some things definitely, like I said with diaper changing, like I've never done that in my life. But
I didn't do that until I had Kindle.
yeah, so
I had
oh
like my first diaper I changed was in the hospital after I had her.
really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess since you haven't even like you don't have nephews or nieces or anything like that,
Uh-uh.
so yeah, that's yeah, so that definitely makes sense since you have no siblings and probably didn't like really have much of an opportunity. So but for me, I know I've had plenty of opportunities, but I've never had like the courage to get up and like, hey, I'll volunteer as tribute to clean the diapers. So yeah, that there are some things that I may actually wait until I have my own kid. I don't want to wipe any other babies diaper or wiping their poo and all that. So so I feel like there are some good things. I mean, um even like some of the beach trips that I've gone on, like it was always fun. And we like thankfully for you, like you had more of an extrovert kind of personality to where you made friends. But I feel like with me, I feel like even if I didn't have this many siblings, I feel like I still would struggle with like talking to people. So I feel like it would have been more of a struggle to enjoy vacation, knowing that like I'm basically playing in the pool by myself. My, parents may be, laying over at the chairs or, they may be just, relaxing and, or doing whatever. And here I am just trying to make the most out of just playing in the water by myself. So I feel like with going on vacations, I always had somebody to play with. I always had somebody to get in the pool with or, whatever that may be. So I think that was, really one good thing about like even vacations, just having having, people there to spend time with. So, and feel like I'm always like got something going on. I feel like I'm always busy even to this day. There's always sporting events going on with like any of my nephews or nieces, or there's always just or there's always dinner plans. So I just, because you don't want to feel like you never see, like, I mean, I guess there are some siblings that I feel like I don't see as much as others, but like most of my siblings I feel like I see at least once a week. So, and I like to keep it that way, and I hope that even when I have a wife and kids, that like hopefully it will continue to stay that way. Even though I know I'll have my own family, but still make that effort and like keep keep that closeness in the family. So I think, yeah, those are some pretty good things. And I guess yeah, so I guess that's it. So I guess my final question that comes to mind is, I guess, the opposite. So I guess my question is, what are some things, if anything, that you disliked about being an only child?
One of the biggest things I feel like is, if tough situations would come up and I needed support, I didn't have it. Um, there were, hard things in my life that, came up as a child, and I just kind of had to deal with it and didn't really have, the support of a sibling that is going through exactly what I'm going through, that I can lean on, and she or he could lean on me, so I didn't have that. And then, if I was at home and like we were snowed in or something was going on and like there was just no one to play with, so I'd get bored. That, I mean, just that kind of thing, not having like that constant person that's always there, living literally in the same house with you and able to help you get through things and spend time with you and keep you company. So that, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense, as far as not really getting to have anybody to rely on, as far as someone to talk to that's around your age, or even if, you had a sibling that was a few years older than you, like, even gaining wisdom or knowledge even from them, that they may have gone through a similar experience when they were at your age at that point, that you were having a problem or any like thing going on. So I definitely think that that's one thing that I can see, kids that have no siblings can struggle with, is just that connection, where there is no connection, basically. There is no opportunity other than maybe like just, I mean, I don't even know if they're at the time. Well, no, I was about to say just mainly just video games is probably you could all rely on, is just
Yeah.
video
Well,
games.
it's like when you're older and you're going to school and you get a cell phone, like then you can, message your friends or call them or talk to them. But before you get a cell phone, before you have a way to communicate with your friends outside of the home, like, for instance, I still have hard moments now in my life, but I'm able to call my friend up or go eat lunch with them or dinner or something and we can talk it out. But when you're a kid and you don't have access to a cell phone, don't even really know how to use one, and like you are just like, you can't drive, you can't use a cell phone, like you're just at home and you're dealing with something, it's challenging.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think, it's good that we live in a time where there is technology, to where that there is those opportunities where you can reach out for, someone to talk to. But yeah, before those times, like you said, when we were younger and maybe didn't have phones or cell phones or anything like that, it would be a lot harder to, to talk to people that, talk to anybody that it was around your age, because there wasn't anybody around your age in the house. So, and that can, like truly relate, even though your parents may have gone through, maybe it's something that you went through, but it's just easier to talk to somebody when they're closer around your age, and someone that could probably relate to that, you know, to that moment, like in that very moment, I guess. So, I guess for me, I guess the only things I can really think of is maybe when I was younger. I think now that I'm older, I kind of appreciate the upbringing that I had. But maybe when I was younger, maybe just like, you can't get all the nicest things because you're younger. So like I would have to wear like clothes that got passed down to me from like older siblings, and I would, we would never like really have no, not that I'm really was that big into like brand clothes or anything like that, or like, but I guess like I never had like much of an experience of like new clothes. I mean, there were like times where we did, but like most of the time it was either like you go to the thrift store, which now I enjoy the thrift store, but but at the time, I guess when I'm younger, I'm thinking like, oh man, like people may can probably tell at this what I'm wearing came from the thrift store, and maybe thrift store had more of a negative meaning, or maybe not. I guess yeah, more of a negative kind of sound back then than it does now. Everybody loves thrift shop now, but but I
Well, it's
think
all about popularity in school and wearing the latest fashion. And if you're not in the latest fashion, the kids unfortunately pick on you. And I hate that that's the way our society is because, like you said, I love the thrift store. You can get so much for a good price and it's good quality. I mean, yeah, it's been used, but it's good quality stuff. Like it's sad. I mean, we've all experienced it when we grew up in school, and I know kids now are still experiencing it. So it's sad that that's the way it is.
yeah, it really is. How everybody almost like just makes fun of you just for what you're wearing. Is like it's just so crazy that like you don't even want to get to know me just based off what I'm wearing. That like that already closed that door of like any kind of friendship or like even trying to get to know you, because it's like you're just going based off external, and you don't even like you haven't even heard me open my mouth yet to even like say anything. So it is sad that like that is still a thing. And now that technology is involved, like there's social media and there's people that like to try to humiliate people through social media. So I feel like that can, make things even harder, because not only are the people at your school seeing it, but like the people all around the world are seeing it now too. So it's like you're trying to put people on blast for like maybe what they wear. So now that I look back on on my upbringing as far as those kind of things, I feel like it brought more of I guess like maybe the word I'm thinking of is like maybe a humble upbringing, like maybe like settling with what I had when I was younger kind of made me appreciate what I have now. Like I don't mind like admitting like I got this from the thrift store. Like sometimes you can get some, like we said, some really good quality clothes that you never know, somebody probably only wore one time and they just got rid of it after that. So I think that, that it's just a way, I guess, of how each individual like looks at stuff. I mean, like that. So I think like as far as materialism and stuff like that, and maybe I've had a little bit more of I guess a humbling experience out of that. I mean, like I know even when I was younger, we did have like different gaming systems, here at the house, but um, so like we've always had stuff like that. But I guess just like the main thing, I guess I feel like the struggle was with clothes. And then maybe the only other thing I could think of is like not really having my own room until I was 21. So I like I've lived in the same house my whole life. It's a 5 bedroom, well, legally is a 5 bedroom, but we do have a 6 bedroom that it was supposed to be a storage room, but my parents made it into a 6 bedroom. But anyway, so had 6 bedrooms in this house, and like all of, of course, had a many siblings. So, the older siblings would be the first ones to get their own rooms, of course. So I was always sharing a room with at least one of my brothers up until I was 21. So then, as soon as my younger sister got married, and then one of my other brothers moved out like a couple months after she got married too. So after two of my siblings moved out in 2014, I ended up getting my own room. So just having a little bit more, I guess just kind of knowing that this is like my space, like this is my personal area where I can listen to music without, like if I wanted to listen to music and like dance here in my room, like I have that more freedom without someone like barging in and like, oh, like, because if I have a brother that's staying in the same room with me, of course they're not gonna knock because they are in the same room as me. And so yeah, or they, sleep in the same room as me. So they just, walk on in, like, and here I am dancing, and I turn around, it's like, oh, hello. so, so it's like I have a little bit more, I guess what you would say, freedom in a way when it comes to, and even doing like these podcast episodes too. Like if I was still sharing a room with a sibling, there would be that distraction. So, so yeah, I feel like there can be like some things that I guess could be so, but I guess it's stuff that like I knew I just had to deal with because you can't help that we're all still kids or all still having to share rooms with one another. So yeah, there's only just a couple of things that I feel like if there was any kind of change at all, but like when I was a kid, but now looking back on it, I appreciate the upbringing that I had. So. So I think overall, I think that's pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about. I think, hearing about some of the similarities or even like the opposite differences, like, as far as the introvert and extrovert and how that can apply to just like going out and in this world and like how we react on like even things like vacations where you said you were able to make friends on your vacations and I already, I guess, had friends and my siblings, so I didn't care to do that. So, but then even just hearing about some similarities that like whether you have a bunch of siblings or if you're an only child, that like you still go through those like moments of trying to fit in, you try to, or feel like you have to go through those or not feel like you actually do go through those hard moments in middle school and high school and all of that. So just even hearing similarities in that way to like there's no limit as far as like those hard times. Like there's no like, okay, well they're an only child, so they're gonna have it easier on them. It's like no, it still shows that like whether you have a bunch of siblings or if you're an only child that like you still go through some of the same stuff, even throughout just school in general, for sure.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's actually going to close out on this topic. I definitely want to thank Madison for being here again. It was definitely good having you here. So, yeah, once again, I definitely appreciate you being here.
Yes, it's an honor, seriously, to be here.
Yes, and I'm definitely really considering the SpongeBob episode for us to do.
Or a whole entire like 90s flashback show episode.
That would be a lot of fun. I would love to do one on that because I think a lot of people would relate to that, especially people around our age. I think that would be a lot of fun for sure. So I'm probably as soon as like before I go to bed, definitely I'm definitely like typing that in. It's like okay, well because I think that would be a really good one to talk about. I think people would love that.
Yeah.
So, so anyways, everybody, whether you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on any of the podcast streaming platforms, I definitely appreciate your support. And I know at this point, when y'all see this, Easter will already be over, but for us, Easter has not happened yet. So I hope that everybody had an amazing Easter with their families and just remember the reason for the season. I know we say that during Christmas time, but we need to remember the reason for the season of this as well. With the going to the cross and Jesus dying for our sins, and then 3 days later coming back to life, and he's still alive today. So just everybody remember that, and I hope that everybody enjoys their Easter and hope everybody has a good rest of their day or night, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. And I will talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody that took the time to listen to this episode of Not Your Average Joel. My podcast is available not only on YouTube, but also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. I also have an Instagram page where you can see outstanding moments, behind the scenes, and even a funny moment or two from each episode at Not Your Average Joel Podcast. If you want to get in contact with me, then my Instagram page is probably the best way to do so through direct messaging. I appreciate any kind of support that you have given to this channel, whether you are a guest or a listener to this podcast. Once again, I thank y'all so much, and I look forward to sharing more of my life with y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel. Goodbye.